Today was a little different because I realized I can actually create events, so I'm getting better at this for all of you watching. So hopefully you've seen it through an event. I've invited a bunch of people, so hopefully people actually show up to this because I think this SPO framework has been a real lifesaver in my business, both in sales, both in marketing, both in growing my business and becoming really getting to that next level of sales and structure, even with clients, because as we go through this SPO framework, I really encourage you, sorry, to start thinking and saying to yourself, you know, how can I apply this to customers to move them up my customer value journey? And because we all know, we get a customer and we get pieces of business, and that customer will not give us a massive amount of business until they know, like, and trust us, right? They see that our integrity, that our trustworthiness, that our follow through is all there. And then pieces start being applied, or pieces of the business or things from the business start being applied, and people start really diving in and seeing that. So that is today's framework. It's today's training session, and I really hope you enjoy it. The SPO framework. Now, what is the SPO framework? Well, it's a term I came up with that I like. It's kind of fun. So it's super abundant progressive output. And for all of you out there that know me, just the word super abundant is just, I think it's pretty cool. I could have come up with other words like prolific or, all these other, but super abundant is something, hey, that's super abundant, man. That's pretty cool. And I don't know, I just kind of, it's kind of like surfer dude-ish to me. So I figured I'd use it, and I enjoy it. It's something that sticks with me, because, that word super abundant, you don't hear it very often. So when I first created this formula, this framework, if you will, this four-step process, I just simply said, okay, super abundant. Well, every time I hear or think of that, or every time I'm on a call, every time I'm working through a project or something, if I think super abundant, I will remember this four-piece framework that we're going to show you now. So what I'll do is I'll dive right in, because I know you probably don't want to hear me speak. You'd rather see the framework and see how you can work and apply it to your business to create the goal, really the successes, to achieve the goals, to hit the mandates, to engage your team better, to engage your community better, to really help build everyone around you up. So as we dive in, I've already created the framework because, again, I know you don't want to see me go through it. So the first part of this framework is, number one, is look at your 5 big moves. And all of those moves are talking about outputs that matter. Now, what, or how, actually, not what, how does this apply to you in sales? So when we think about this from a salesperson perspective, from a sales rep, account executive, account manager, whatever it is, what are 5 of the big moves that we need to do to continually scale our business, right? So obviously one is prospecting. To me, one would also be not only prospecting, but inside prospecting, how do we qualify our customers, our prospects quicker? How do we establish rapport quicker? How do we establish interest quicker? Like, these are big outputs. And think of it like this: if we go through a series of calls and we don't focus on how can we connect with the prospect faster, how can we qualify faster, think of how much time you're wasted. And a simple math is this: 20 minutes a day of wasted time equals a week of productivity at the end of the year. So just do that math. If we spend 20 minutes a day on not qualifying, not really focusing on the outputs that matter, we lose an entire week's productivity. Now, if we're honest and we go through our day, are we 20 minutes, or are we more like 40, maybe 60, maybe 80 minutes? Maybe there's a 20-minute conversation. And I know some of you are going to say, Dan, come on now. But maybe there's a 20-minute conversation at a water cooler that does not matter to the long-term attainment of your goals. I'm going to go that deep with it, because how many times do we waste our time at the water cooler, waste an opportunity to get something done for whatever reason? So when we talk about move number one, and really the first part of the SPO framework, right, the super abundant progressive output, what are the big 5 moves that matter? As a salesperson, it's prospecting. As a manager, maybe your big five moves is to rally your troops. So how do we rally our troops? When we dive into the how, this moves into number two, which is skill up on what matters. Now, when we're talking about skill up, this means learning, right? It could be a course, a book, whatever it is. So if you are a manager and you're, sorry, the camera didn't switch here. If you're a manager and your objective is, okay, I really need to rally my troops. I'm finding my team is demotivated. Things aren't happening. It's mainly because you're not really understanding the overall context, right? So if one of your big five moves is, finding out how I can engage my team, the skill up might be you go take a course. Maybe you hire somebody to come in and help you do it. That's skilling up, because here's the thing, when we hire coaches or when we bring people in to help us get to the next level, once they leave, we have the tools we need to continue that to the next level. And sometimes teams, right? Okay, let me actually backtrack for a second here. If you're a manager and a lot of times your team, you don't have the respect, you don't have the team's not really in the desire to do it. Have you ever stopped and thought maybe they think, or maybe I haven't led by showing? I've been there. I've done that where I've had managers and I've spoken to colleagues and then they've said, you know what, this is crazy. That manager hasn't been to a sales meeting in 10, 15 years. How is he going to tell me how to sell more? How is he going to help me get to that next level? So are you showing, or are you just that manager that sits back? See, this is part of the big five moves. This is part of when we said in the description of this, it might call you out because maybe as a salesperson, you're procrastinating beyond all belief. And the number one rule in sales is prospecting. One of the biggest move is prospecting. So maybe you're not doing that. So this framework, you're not producing super abundant progressive output. You're just not, because you're not producing. So that's something you need to really, really look at and be honest with yourself and say, is this something that, like, where am I at with this? Once you establish those outputs, the big five that matter, prospecting, qualifying customers, rallying the troops, helping my team educate, learn more, helping my team through progressive mastery, helping my team do this, helping my team do that, maybe creating a better dynamic with my manager or with my sales force or with, these are all big moves that we really need to then skill up and learn, right? So even if one of your big moves is qualifying quicker, what skills are you going to learn? What processes are you going to follow? What are you going to do to learn how to do that? So maybe you go take a psychology course. Maybe you go take an influence course. So these are just things that we do when we learn. Now, number three is schedule it in daily. Now, here is the big caveat to this. If we want to progressively move forward in a super abundant way, we have to work on those outputs daily. It's that simple. How many times have you, I couldn't tell you how many times I've done this until I finally realized that, wow, this is something you really need to do every day. How many times have we been in a valley? We've heard something, we've spoken to somebody, we've watched a video on YouTube, we, all of a sudden got an email from somebody, or we had a conversation where it's like, yeah, that's great information. We start using it for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 days or 6 days, or we start applying it in our life. And then all of a sudden things get better and we kind of shelf it. It's gone. We forget all about it. Then things drop and it's like, oh, this stuff isn't working. Or like, how many times have we done that? How many times have we become stagnant in our sales? And if we're truly honest with ourselves, we'll realize we weren't doing what got us to that level. And we didn't change, shift, alter, move, sequence it, morph it into something that's going to get us to the next level. So when we understand that we have certain moves that matter in our business, We identify those moves. We really put them down and we critically think about those moves. We put it, and then we understand, okay, in order to achieve this move, to be like prolific at this move, to be an expert, to really dominate this, I need to learn this. In order to learn that, I'm going to dedicate half an hour each day, an hour each day of my schedule that's irrevocable to this move, to this skill, to this opportunity. Now, one that I say for a big five moves is education. I believe as a sales rep in logistics and transportation, you better be damn well educated on market, what's happening in the market, and how those impacts, how that market shift, changes, challenges, blah, 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 whatever you want to say, impact your customers. How do you level up on that? And how do you put it in your day, right? I start my day with education. Every day, I do a minimum of an hour and a half of training on different topics that I know are my big five moves that move me to the next level. I level up that skill and it's scheduled into my daily calendar. Then number four, actually I need another marker now because I threw that one away. Number four is really simple, is measure and refine. And this perpetual loop continues. So when we talk about measure and refine, right? I go in, one of my big five moves is qualifying a customer quicker. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to skill up in qualifying my customer. How am I going to do that? Okay, I'm going to establish a customer profile. I'm going to really understand what my number one priority, my number two, and my number three priority is in my customer profile. What I'm going to do is then I'm going to skill up on my Q&A, on my piquing interest, on how I can pique interest, on how I can ask better questions, on how I can get the customer going, that's a great question. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And what I'm going to do is daily, I'm going to schedule it in for 30 minutes every morning, and I'm going to look in the mirror. And for those of you that are giggling right now, yes, look in a mirror and go through a sales call with yourself for 30 minutes every morning. I'm going to take my questions. I'm going to take the most common answers. I'm going to continually put them in order, and I'm going to read them every day. Then you move to step four. I'm going to refine my answers. I'm going to measure when I refine, what's the response? How do I get reactions from my prospects? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up. Okay, now I've got my qualifying down to 3 minutes, for example. Okay, well, I know if I can qualify in a minute and save 2 minutes a day and I'm making 30 calls a day, I'm going to save that 30 minutes, which gives me another week of productivity at the end of the year. Bang, all of a sudden math works. I can actually close another 6 clients a year if I just refine this even more. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. How do I skill up even further? How do I add that? I've already got it in my schedule. How do I measure it? So now I'm qualifying customers in a minute. Now I've just saved 2 minutes of the qualification process. Now, whether that's moving them through your customer value journey, whether that's moving them to the next sequence, whether that's moving them through your sales process or your sales cycle, pulling them through the sales cycle faster, whatever that is. If you're continually looking at the outputs that matter, you're continually skilling up, you're continually adding it in your daily schedule. And when I'm talking about prospecting here, we'll switch to this. Like when if you just look at one, which is prospecting, and you decide that when you move over here, you're going to get better at qualifying, and you skip this step because your operations are too busy, maybe a customer pissed you off, or an operations team member pissed you off, or because something happened in operation pissed you off, and you completely skip this step, you don't add it into your schedule, how are you able to measure and refine? See, all of these work in congruence together. If you miss one, you miss a massive opportunity to scale and move your business to the next level. And here's the question I ask all the time. Are you in this for practice, or are you in it for profit? And let's be clear, right? All of your customers are in it for profit. Companies are in it for profit. Salespeople are in it for profit. We're in it to create a life for ourselves, a life that we enjoy, a life that we wanted, a life that when we close our eyes and we put our head down on the pillow at night, it's the life we've dreamed of. That's why we're in this career. If it's just a job, forget about the S.P.O framework. You're not going to be super abundant. You're not going to have any progression because you're not focusing on the outputs that matter. But if it's a career and it's something you really want, and I'm very sorry. Again, I say it a lot of times on these lives, but I'll say it again. For all of you in a different career, I'm sorry. Logistics to transportation is the greatest career on the planet because everything you see has touched a truck. What other career can you get into that impacts every level of the planet at a degree that we do? Now, some of you say, well, healthcare, yes. But in order to get all the healthcare stuff, and I said this on a different live, you imagine the logistical delivery system, the logistical structure, the supply chain requirements to get the COVID vaccine into everybody's hands. Yes, all pharmaceuticals are going for that and they're rushing to create a vaccine. But how is it going to get to people? Us. We're the medium that's going to get it to everybody. So if we're the medium that in essence controls every economy, would it not make sense for you to be an expert, for you to like do the best you absolutely can? I'll tell you right now, if a great, yes, thank you, Michael. It is the greatest. I'm going to put that up there because that's awesome. You're damn right, Michael. It is the greatest industry on the planet. Think of it like this. I'm a grade 9 dropout. I met an individual in a bar who told me I would do great in this industry. When I was growing up, it was education that gave people the good jobs. You stayed with companies for a long time and 20 years. That's what I was taught. That's what I was told. In high school, people told me, you're never going to be anything. Like, how could this person saw something? They brought me into an industry when I was 17 years old. Most people said I still smelled like pee, right? Like, think about this for a second. Yes, absolutely, Thomas. This industry is amazing. I love seeing product and saying, you know, Thomas, I'll get back to my story in a second. I have to give you a little scenario here. So I started ship. One of my biggest customers when I first got in this business was wrapping paper. Plusmark and Clio Wrap were the two major wrapping paper companies in North America. And I remember walking into Walmart, looking, going, "Oh my Lord, I shipped that. I moved that. And not only did I move that, I actually hand bombed it out of a truck, put it into another truck, and got it to Walmart." It was, Thomas, it was the most awesome feeling ever. It was so cool. So here's where I go with this. If a grade 9 dropout could make it and really create the life he's always dreamed of, so can you. But it takes work. If you think this, just even this process right here, falls into your lap, you're wrong. It's all about being very, very focused. Like, this whole entire process is about marshaling your energy. And if this is your career, put everything you have into it. Go and skill up, put it in your daily schedule. And the biggest part is measure and refine. Because we will find, even as we go through these strategies, you might find that you're taking this framework and maybe you're like, yeah, that number one doesn't really work for me, Dan. I'm going to focus on this. And maybe that's the framework that works for you. This session is simply to give you a different thought process for you to think differently about how this works and how you can level up, skill up, and become better at what you do. That is my mission for everyone in this industry, because you know what? A man gave me an opportunity to create everything I ever wanted in life, and I owe it to him and I owe it to the industry to give back. That's the message today, my friends. If you'd like a copy of this framework, please DM me or get a hold of me, info@dandeegan, DANDEIGAN.com, and I'll send you out an actual framework where you can start filling in these answers and really start thinking through it. If you're interested in moving to the next level and getting a real solid foundation for everything you do in business, I'm running a 28-day challenge right now, where it's an incremental step-by-step process. I mean, in long and short of it is, there's over $1,700 in value that I'm giving away for $97, because I really want to give back to everyone in this industry, because it's helped me get where I want. And we've got, actually, Ryan Mohammed is presently a member of the 28-day challenge. Ryan, thanks for being here, my friend. And it's awesome. I mean, it is step by step. It helps you build that foundation. It can build a skyscraper of business on. And it deals with a lot of these core concepts and strategies. It's very intensive when it comes to your thinking, because a lot of the times, in order for us to really move to the next level, we got to really sit down and say, is what I'm doing working to the best of my ability? Is it helping me achieve my goals in the fastest, most retentive manner? And what I mean by that is, There's one thing to get a customer, then there's another thing to get a customer that's a raving fan. So even as you go through this, create this framework for your customers. What are the big 5 moves for customer retention? How can I skill up on those moves? How can I schedule that into my daily schedule? And then how can I refine and measure that? Now you're talking next level, high performance sales. Until next time, my friends, remember, go out there and make every call educational and crush your sales. If you want a copy of this framework, please DM me or get a hold of me, info@dandeegan, DANDEIGAN.com. Take care, my friends.